had the opportunity to talk much with you about the Heisman race, and between the fluid situation with Jameis Winston, Johnny Manziel having some great opportunities between LSU and Mizzou to really boost his stock. It seems like as good of a time as any to throw that out there. Where do you stand on the Manziel part of this conversation?
Listen, Johnny Manziel is clearly, in my opinion, going to be a finalist in New York City. The problem that I have at this point, I think the problem that a lot of voters have is he hasn't had that transcendent game, that moment this season that you can point to, much like in 2012 with the Alabama game. Sure, the stats are good. I happen to think he's the best all-around player in the country. I don't think voters want to give him a second Heisman. I think Archie Griffin is in that hallowed ground in college football history, and I really think voters are against giving that second one to Johnny.
Because of the off-field stuff?
Because of the off-field stuff, because of the fact that he's so young, because of the fact that they know he's going to the NFL next year. And again, I want to see, where is that transcendent moment this year?
It's not called the Niceman. It's called the Heisman. It shouldn't go to the nicest player. It should go to the best football player in college football. Johnny Manziel is the best player in college football. I hate rattling off stats, but let me give you something. Over 73% of his passes he's completing. Over 3,900 yards of total offense. 39 TDs. He's played against 5 top 10 SEC defenses. He's 4-1 against them. He's gone off in those ball games. Now, he's got LSU left. He's got Missouri left. On the road at their place. Missouri could be the team that plays in the SEC championship. If he goes off, you're trying to tell me that he's not going to win the Heisman. Now, with what's going on with Jameis Winston, that speculation going on around him, that's going to hurt him. So if Manziel's your number 2 guy, why does he not win it? Don't hand it to Bryce Petty. Who's Bryce Petty played? We thought Oklahoma was good. No. We thought Texas Tech was good. No. When they blow out Oklahoma State, are we going to say he plays in a weak conference? If he does play in a weak conference, then why don't we give the Heisman to Braxton Miller, who plays in another weak conference?
How about A.J. McCarron?
Because that's giving it to the nicest guy who's the 4th best player in the race, and he wins it by default.
He's 35-2 career. He's not just a nice guy.
His big games, he stunk it up. He stunk it up against Virginia Tech, against the nation's top defense. Every time Johnny Manziel gets on the field against a good D, he goes off.
You cannot blame that game on A.J. McCarron. You had 3 new starters on the offensive line.
Which did a poor job of protecting.
Yeah,
obviously.
I mean, you got to look at that more of a macro
level. When the ball leaves
level.
his hand, he's responsible for 42 interceptions in that game. He can't do that.
This is all I know. There are only 3 times in his career that A.J. McCarron has had multiple pick games. Mississippi State last week was one of them. Texas A&M last year, and then his very first start.
What does it say about the trophy if we give it to the 3rd or 4th best player
by default? What does it say about the trophy
default,
if we give it to a guy who helped engineer 2 straight championships, possibly a 3rd?
Exactly.
I don't know.
And
two biggest games of the season.
Like
2 biggest games of the season. Texas A&M and LSU, 7 touchdown passes, no picks. So this is not necessarily Gina Toretta-like. I mean, I think he's had a very good season. As Bonnie said, he's headed towards possibly a 3rd national championship.
But there's high schools in Texas that play better defense than Texas A&M does. A.J. McCarron's supposed to have those numbers against Texas A&M's defense. Marshall had those numbers against A&M's defense. Should we hand him the Heisman too? He's a pretty good player, not the best. A.J. McCarron's not the best player, so we're going to hand him the Heisman because, we don't like Manziel. Winston's got this speculating around him. Petty, we're not sure yet, maybe next year. So let's just hand it to the guy with the most wins. Your numbers aren't that great, but you got a lot of wins. You play on the best team in college football. Anybody can play that position on that team and probably be almost as good as you. But Johnny Manziel, hands down, the best football player in college football. Best numbers. You take him away from that team, they might be 500.
You cannot dispute his numbers, and we need to end on this. But the one thing that I always come back to is, yes, his completion percentages, his numbers are great, but he had some major mistakes in their 2 losses against A&M and Auburn that, you don't want to say one play cost a team a game, but you throw picks in critical situations and it does play well.
Last thing, Bonnie, and the NCAA was never able to prove that Johnny Manziel did anything. That was self-imposed. When they sat him down, that was self-imposed by the school. Cam Newton, they were never able to prove anything, that his father took money and he won the Heisman Trophy. Yeah, so don't use that as an excuse.
Cam Newton towards the end was leading his team to a national championship.
Johnny Manziel's got 2 more big ones.
Cam Newton beat Alabama.
Manziel had 2 losses last year and won it.